This is Matt from MGMT Boston. Today we are with Natan Linder, the co-founder and CEO of Tulip Interfaces. Very excited to be here in the Tulip Experience Center. There's machines everywhere, and this is what you all do.
We got a lot of toys.
Exactly.
We got robots.
We have a Boston Dynamics robot behind us. And the reason we're brought together today is Yuval at Akooda. You just acquired that company, so excited to talk about what's going on at Tulip, what this is going to unlock for you, and all of the above. So first and foremost, before we get into any of that, what is Tulip? What are you and your team building?
Sure. So if you spend any time in an operational environment, then this could be factories or machine shops or labs, warehouses, where people do physical work, you'll find a lot of engineers and a lot of operators and in different walks of life. They can be industrial process engineers, they can be handling things like operational excellence or safety, quality. That's the disciplines you need to put together to build and deliver real product in process that basically support everything we consume in life, whether it's your mobility or your food or your drugs or your electronic gadgets. Everything is manufactured. And for manufacturing to work, you need to build what's called a production system. And people sometimes confuse production system with, oh, it's a bunch of software, but it's really the sort of the blueprint of how organizations actually work. And that has roots in the lean movement, and people often reference Toyota production system. And Tulip basically allows you to build those kind of production systems, focusing on the people who do the work. We do this with a very approachable, accessible, no-code, low-code, AI-first type of platform that basically allows those same engineers and people and their leaders to codify their knowledge, turn it into applications and workflows and data collection and analysis, and close the loop such that they can transform their operation continuously. And that is a very hard thing to do because manufacturing is hard, hardware is hard, it requires a lot of data, it requires a lot of training. And prior to Tulip, it was very hard to find platforms that really focus on that set of constituency and the use case that they need, whether it's training, production visibility, standard work instructions, audit supports, especially in regulated environments. So the list is very long of what do they actually do with this thing. And of course, because it needs to live in a physical environment, we make edge devices like this one, so it allows you to connect things. We have a global data center network that we support because manufacturing follows the supply chain is global. And we of course create a lot of content that people can take and share the knowledge across various types of companies, industries, and so on. Kind of like bringing open source to a degree. It's not exactly open source, but democratizing the access to the domain expertise, and that's very exciting to see the community that comes along with it. So that's the Tulip Library and university and generally support education. So that's what Tulip does.
Amazing. Now, nearing the end of 2025, it's a big year of scale for you and your team. The Akooda acquisition is certainly notable. What are some other highlights you'd share as we propel into 2026?
We're definitely in scale-up stage, I'd say, and it's well felt in the company and our customers. We just finished our largest ever user conference called Operations Calling. So this whole space was full with, I think, north of 700 people coming in for the third time to experience it. We think about our metrics through the lens of usability. So for example, Tulip connect to a lot of different devices and machines, as I mentioned, and also support human operation. And we allow people to create workflows that we call automation. I think we passed north of 620 million automations. We really like to count application-based processes. So basically this is where people take the time to codify what they're doing, figure out what they want to automate or control, and that number surpassed 70 million processes this year. And finally, one of the important things we count is station hours. So this is like an hour where a station was active, meaning that it was important enough for someone to use our software solutions, our connectivity, what have you, combination thereof, to do something important. In manufacturing speak, is about you're either reducing waste or you're adding value. So they decided to do that in the platform. That number is crossing quickly 35 million and probably north of that at this point in time. And overall, I think we're going to cross 30 billion contextualized data points fairly soon. So it's really a lot of scale. And I think what's interesting is, especially as you kind of consider Akooda and the need for AI, because AI, I think we can't go through a single day without 15 LinkedIn posts and a lot of noise, a lot of hype in our space. Now people are even talking about when is that bubble going to burst. But I think what's pretty clear is that AI is not like some random thing. It's actually a fairly useful set of tools that you can apply to very clear use cases. So it's a pretty fancy typer and can create code. And people have all sorts of names to describe that. It's also not bad at coming up with, like as a thinking partner, and getting better and better as an enterprise search tool, as long as you have a couple things. One thing you need to have is you need to trust the tool as the user. Your organization needs to trust you using the tool. And for all of this to work, you need a ton of context. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. Because these models are not as smart as people pretend they are. We think about it as pretty horizontal, and like the focus, like how does it not become something that is between impossible to very little value if implementing an operation. Now the problem is operations are less tolerant to what humans are actually doing in non-physical environments. So for example, I think the engineers are babysitting their different agents all the time, and there's a whole development pipeline and quality assurance processes that ensure that, you can do all this vibe coding and architecture, design, whatever it is you're doing, but there's a whole process that makes sure the product goes out with quality. The side effects in operation could be cataclysmic. If you cause downtime, or if you destroy raw materials that is worth millions, or if you delay implementation of important infrastructure because AI is cool, no one cares. No one gets points for that. There's just like less environment where this can happen routinely and safely. So unlike what you're seeing in other sort of classic environments, engineers live in IDEs and marketers could live in their digital marketing platform and so on and so forth. So operations people live in Tulip when they're doing it. So this is why we built Copilot widgets directly in the platform that you can focus, and composer products that you can throw PDFs or videos and you can tell it, hey, build me an app, and you can iterate there. MCPs to connect it to other systems. And the list is very long, and we see it across the platform. And the most recent thing we've announced is a full-blown agentic framework that works even with our workflow and automation product, which is, if you've seen products like the agent builder from N8N or the OpenAI agent builder, so it's akin to that, but the difference is that it has the context of what you see around you here, like devices that speak different protocols, not just HTTP, lots of industrial protocols. It is contextualized in the sense that it talks to many other back-end systems, so we do a lot of the orchestration, whether it's ERP or MES. But it's also governed, and it's also working in an environment that safeguards some of those issues that I just enumerated, and mostly puts the people in operations on par with the environment, because no one's going to let engineers run around the factory floor with a cursor and say, okay, just roll something out. It'll be okay, we'll see what happens. And certainly not in regulated industry. It's a huge focus for us. So think pharmaceutical, medical devices, aerospace defense, and the like.
So big 2026 ahead for sure.
Very big, 100%.
Now, you've done so much in your career, from the co-founder of Form Labs, so a frontline operations environment that rolled out to consumers, to now doing that for hundreds of customers. What have you learned from your career building this company that you would share with other builders in the Boston startup ecosystem?
I think it's like universally true, but especially when sometimes people characterize the work as hard tech, whether because it has a manufacturing component or you're trying to innovate a new piece of hardware and launch it, is like work very, very close to customers. This is not like an empirical ratio, but we like to think about our ratio of how we divide stuff up as like 80% customers, maybe 10% market, and 10% hallucinations. And so I think that's universally true. And by the way, that also, in a way, that same focus led to this move we made with Akooda, actually. Because the thing is that Gen AI injected a lot of energy and speed to this kind of ecosystem we're all living in now, whether you're in the adopting side or building solution side. And I think the most value is where you can verticalize and specialize this technology, because we know exactly who's going to make it widely available horizontally in many of our productivity suites. So think about what the Microsoft, Googles, and the likes will do, and they're already doing it, and that's great. And are you going back to the world before?
Probably not.
Why?
Two new tools that work too well.
Right, and mostly give you some utility that you're not willing to substitute to the old way, which is like, you're not going to write Google script in Python to run a lot of searches. This is a better way.
Yeah.
So if you believe in all that, and you think about yourself as kind of an example of I'm going to use the term I hate, but for a second here, like a knowledge worker.
Yeah.
We're all doing knowledge work, then as a result, people in operations are also knowledge workers. So that's the mission, and that needs focus. And the Akooda team built a pretty awesome framework and collected a lot of real experience in how to ingest tons of information, create very interesting, not just using Gen AI, but deep learning and other techniques, understanding of what's actually those organizations are doing, how they're behaving, and contextualize the signal, and to take all that and where it meets our needs here, to allow our customers to sift through tons of data is just a phenomenal opportunity to chase together.
Love it. This is Natan Linder, the co-founder and CEO of Tulip, Matt from MGMT Boston, on this episode of Lantern. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right, thanks a lot. Thanks for coming.